Have you ever wondered why a man can be completely obsessed with you one moment and then distant the next? Why he chases you like you're the only woman in the world, but pulls away just when you start to feel something real? It's not because he's broken. It's not because you did something wrong. It's because most men are wired to feel lust first and only discover love later. And understanding that difference might just change the way you see everything. Men and women often experience attraction differently, especially in the early stages of getting to know someone. For men, the initial trigger for interest is overwhelmingly physical. This isn't just a stereotype, it's rooted in biology. From an evolutionary standpoint, men have been conditioned over thousands of years to notice physical traits that signal fertility, health, and vitality. Features like symmetry, curves, and clear skin send subconscious signals that the woman is a desirable partner on a reproductive level. Whether or not he's aware of it, a man's attention is often hijacked by these signals before anything else can even register. This isn't to say men are shallow. It means they're wired a certain way. The first reaction is not about emotional depth, values, or personality. It's about attraction. It's fast, it's instinctual, and it happens before he even asks himself if he likes the way you laugh or how you treat others. This biological response explains why men can seem fully invested early on, even when they don't actually know the woman at all. The man might pursue hard text often, compliment constantly, and even seem emotionally available, not because he's fallen in love, but because he's caught up in desire. What often confuses women is that this early attention feels like affection. It feels personal, but in many cases, it's not about you. It's about how you make him the rush, the chase, the fantasy. None of that requires real knowledge of who you are. It's a reaction to how you look, how you carry yourself, and what he thinks you represent. And this is where many women get hurt. Because while lust might be instant, love is always delayed. It requires exposure, consistency, effort. It comes from watching how someone behaves when things aren't perfect, when they're tired, when they're upset, when no one is watching. For women, attraction often unfolds differently. While physical chemistry matters, many women tend to connect emotionally before they fully give themselves over to physical desire. They want to feel safe, understood, and appreciated. They want to feel like someone sees them for who they are, not just what they look like. So when a man comes in with intensity and charm, it's easy to assume that he's emotionally on the same page, but often he's not there yet, not because he doesn't have the capacity to love, but because love hasn't had time to form. This gap in timing creates confusion. One person is emotionally invested, the other is still physically fascinated. Understanding this dynamic helps women avoid the trap of believing lust equals love. It allows you to step back and observe instead of assuming a deep connection exists simply because a man is showing interest. A man can be deeply physically attracted to a woman and still know nothing about how she thinks, what she values, or how she handles conflict. Lust doesn't require compatibility, love does. And that's why men often need more time to shift from attraction to appreciation, from seeing a woman as desirable to seeing her as irreplaceable. The takeaway isn't that men are incapable of love. Far from it. It's that their process often starts with the body before it reaches the heart. And if you want to build something meaningful, it's crucial to give both of you time to let reality surface. Time for him to see you, not just want you. And time for you to see if his interest is rooted in curiosity about your soul or just hunger for your skin. Lust isn't the problem. It's the filter through which men often see women in the beginning. This doesn't make men bad or shallow, it just reflects how their attraction system is built. Lust is an instinctive reaction, not a deliberate choice. When a man sees a woman he finds attractive, his interest is triggered, but that doesn't mean he's interested in her as a person. What's happening is more like an emotional spark lit by visual and sensory cues. It's fast, powerful, and feels real in the moment, but it hasn't been earned through knowledge or connection. That's why it's so dangerous to misread lust as something deeper. Lust alone is not an indicator of long-term potential. It's a doorway, but not the destination. This is where many women fall into confusion. A man's energy in the beginning can feel intoxicating. He might be calling, texting, planning dates, being affectionate. It feels like he's already emotionally involved, like he's already attached. But the truth is, that energy is often being driven by desire, not depth. He's responding to how you make him feel, not necessarily who you are. That's the difference between lust and love. Lust is all about the self, how you excite him, how you make him feel alive, how you satisfy a fantasy he may have had long before you showed up. It has little to do with seeing you clearly. And that's the filter lust puts a haze over reality. In those early stages, he may not even be aware that he's projecting an ideal version of you onto the real you. He doesn't know how you handle stress. He doesn't know your core value. He doesn't know if you're compatible. He knows he wants you, but he doesn't know why. And that matters more than people realize. The problem isn't that men experience lust first. That's natural. The problem is when women take that lust as proof of something it's not. Because lust feels urgent, exciting, emotional even. It can mimic the early signs of love. A woman might think, he must really care, he's coming on so strong. But many men come on strong because the chase is thrilling, not because they've made an emotional investment. The danger is that lust can create a false sense of intimacy. You talk for hours, the chemistry is there, the physical connection is explosive, it feels like a relationship is forming, but really, it's just desire being fed by attention and access. Nothing has truly been built yet. That's why women need to let time be the judge. Lust burns hot but fast. It doesn't sustain connection unless something deeper follows. The real test is whether that energy stays once the novelty fades. Does he keep showing up when he's not trying to win you? Does he engage with your mind, your dreams, your fears? Is he invested in understanding you or just experiencing you? Those answers don't come in the first week. They come after consistent time spent seeing each other in different lights. Good days, bad moods, disagreements, silence. That's when the filter starts to fall away and real connection, or real incompatibility, reveals itself. Lust is not the enemy, but it's not the full picture either. It's the lens that needs to be cleared before real clarity can arrive. If you're not careful, you'll build a story around a man who was never really interested in building one with you. He was caught in the moment, not committed to the future. The question is, can he see past the surface and still be drawn to your depth? Once the initial rush is gone, that's when you know it's more than lust. Men fall in lust fast, but love slowly. That's not a judgment, it's just a reality of how emotional development often works in the male mind. When a man sees someone he's physically attracted to, the reaction is almost immediate. It's not calculated or deeply analyzed. It's a flash of instinct, like flipping a switch. He knows in seconds whether he desires her on a physical level. That attraction can be intense and magnetic. It can make him pursue, flirt, compliment, and even make promises that sound like deep emotional interest. But what many women don't realize is that in the early stages, he's still completely in the realm of attraction, not emotional connection. He's responding to the feeling of desire, not necessarily to who she is as a person. That's why a man can seem completely captivated one day and distant the next. It's not that his feelings changed overnight, it's that he never truly had deep feelings to begin with. He was intoxicated by the energy of lust, not grounded in the reality of love. Lust is fast and fiery. It shows up without permission. But love doesn't work like that. Love is gradual. It's something that unfolds layer by layer as a man begins to truly see someone. It's not about how she looks in a dress or how good the chemistry feels on the first few dates. Love takes root when a man feels emotionally safe around a woman, when he sees her strength, her kindness, her values. Those things don't reveal themselves immediately. They show up over time, through conversation, through conflict, through consistency. That's why love grows slowly. It needs experiences to build on. It needs shared challenges, mutual understanding, and a deep sense of trust that can't be formed overnight. This gap between fast lust and slow love is where so many miscommunications happen. A woman might feel that because a man is attentive, expressive, and physically affectionate, he must be emotionally involved. But often that's not the case. He may be emotionally present, but not emotionally attached. Those are two very different things. Presence can feel like intimacy, but it's often just focus in the moment. Love, on the other hand, requires memory and meaning. It's built through the accumulation of moments where both people show up, not just physically, but with their full selves. A man begins to love when he realizes that what he's feeling goes beyond desire, when he finds himself caring about her needs, her feelings, her pain, when her happiness becomes part of his own. One of the reasons love takes longer for men is because many are taught to compartmentalize emotions. They're not always taught to identify and express deeper feelings right away. So even if love is growing inside him, he may not have the language or awareness to recognize it early on. It might take him longer to move past the physical and into the emotional. This doesn't mean he's emotionally unavailable. It means he's on a different timeline. He has to feel his way into love, not just think his way into it. And that process can't be rushed. For women, it's crucial to allow that space, to not confuse his early intensity with a deep bond, and to not panic if he slows down after the initial chase. That's often when the real connection has a chance to begin, when the thrill settles and the truth shows up. If there's something genuine between you, his energy won't just disappear, it will evolve. It may not feel as loud or fast, but it will become deeper, more grounded, and far more meaningful. That's the difference between being caught up in someone and truly caring for them. Love doesn't hit like lightning, it grows like roots, quietly, steadily, and only when nurtured. How a woman responds in the early stages of a connection can completely shape the dynamic between her and a man. When a man feels that intense initial desire, he often tests the waters to see how easily he can access your time, your attention, your body, and even your emotions. These are not always conscious tests. Sometimes they're just instinctual actions. But make no mistake, how you react tells him everything about how to treat you moving forward. If a woman quickly gives herself over, physically or emotionally, before a foundation has been built, she may accidentally confirm to him that she's someone he can enjoy in the short term, but not necessarily value in the long term. Not because she lacks worth, but because she didn't require him to see it before he got what he wanted. When something comes easy, it's easy to walk away from. That's human nature, not just male behavior. But in the dating space, this reality plays out more often with women who hope early intimacy will spark deeper commitment. When a woman holds space for herself, when she takes her time, asks thoughtful questions, and doesn't rush to please or impress. She changes the rhythm of the interaction. She shows him that she has standards, and that connection with her is something he needs to earn, not something handed over just because there's chemistry. This doesn't mean playing games or being distant for the sake of control. It means being aware of your value and acting in a way that reflects it. It means being clear about your boundaries, your expectations, and your pace. And it means not getting swept away by a man's desire before he's demonstrated that he respects your depth. Men are far more perceptive than they're often given credit for. They may not express emotions as quickly, but they do notice how a woman carries herself. If he sees that she respects herself, he begins to mirror that respect. He leans in differently. He becomes more intentional. He starts to wonder what she's looking for, what kind of life she wants, what kind of man he needs to become in order to stay in her life. And only happens when there's a pause between desire and fulfillment. That space creates room for curiosity, for effort, and for emotional investment. Too often, women are taught that being agreeable, available, and accommodating is the way to win a man's affection. But in truth, that often backfires. When you give too much too soon, you remove the challenge. And the challenge isn't about playing hard to get, it's about being hard to replace. A woman who knows her worth doesn't need to prove herself to anyone. She lets a man reveal his intentions through his actions over time. She understands that lust is easy, but love is layered. And she knows that until a man has shown emotional consistency, his words are just part of the early noise. The power lies in the pause, in not reacting to every compliment as if it means more than it does, in not building fantasies in your head based on a few sweet words or intense kisses, in letting time and behavior do the talking. A man who truly wants more than lust will stay through that pause. He won't push past your boundaries or disappear when things slow down. He'll lean in, because he sees that there's something in you that's rare, something not everyone gets access to. And when that happens, the dynamic shifts. He starts to move from chasing a thrill to building a connection. Not because you told him to, but because your behavior invited him to. Real connection with a man doesn't come from giving him everything he wants up front. It comes from offering a mix of warmth, depth, and a bit of challenge. That combination is what keeps him intrigued long after the initial attraction fades. Men may be pulled in by appearance, but they stay because of how a woman makes them feel emotionally. And what makes a man feel connected is not constant availability or instant intimacy. It's vulnerability wrapped in self-respect. When a woman is emotionally grounded and selective about what she shares and when, she invites curiosity. She becomes more than just someone attractive. She becomes someone worth discovering. That sense of emotional mystery, not to be confused with manipulation, gives the man space to earn her trust and step into a more meaningful role. Challenge in this context doesn't mean creating drama or playing hard to get. It means being someone who doesn't accept surface level connection. A woman who requires authenticity, consistency, and emotional presence sets a standard. She's not easily impressed, not because she's cold, but because she values her energy and expects real effort. Men may not always admit it, but they respect what they have to work for. And when they work for something, they begin to value it more. This is not about ego, it's about investment. When a man has to show up with more than charm or attraction, he engages a different part of himself. He begins to consider whether he is emotionally mature enough to handle what this woman requires. That reflection is what starts turning lust into love. At the same time, vulnerability is essential. Being a challenge without emotional openness only builds walls. A woman who can express how she feels, what she hopes for, and what she fears, without giving away everything too soon, creates an emotional bond. Men begin to fall in love when they see a woman's realness, not her perfection. They connect when they feel trusted, needed in a meaningful way, and safe to be themselves. That safety is created when a woman shows that she can open up, not out of desperation, but from a place of confidence. It's not about oversharing, it's about being human and allowing emotional access at the right moments. When both of these elements, challenge and vulnerability, exist together, a man starts to attach emotionally. He stops seeing the relationship as something casual or momentary. He starts imagining a future because he doesn't just feel desire, he feels seen, respected, and emotionally engaged. That's what creates real connection. Not chemistry alone, but emotional layering over time. A man won't always say this directly, but the women who leave the deepest mark on his heart are the ones who held high standards and still met him with empathy. The ones who didn't need him but chose to let him in. The ones who didn't push for love but created space for it to grow. This process takes time, and it's rarely linear. Some men will pull back when they feel the pull of real intimacy, not because they don't care, but because it forces them to face parts of themselves they may not be ready to bring forward. But the ones who are ready will lean in. They will rise to meet the challenge and embrace the vulnerability. They will invest, not because they're being manipulated, but because they're genuinely drawn to a connection that feels rare and valuable. And in that space where there is emotional honesty, mutual effort, and respect, a man begins to feel more than lust. He starts to feel love. Love for a man doesn't fully develop in the rush of newness. It shows up in the moments that are quiet, unglamorous, and real. At first, he might be hooked by the excitement, the way she looks, the energy between them, the fun, the chemistry. All of that creates a kind of emotional high that feels intense and meaningful, even though it hasn't been tested. But that's just the beginning. That's not where love lives. That's where attraction plays. Love begins to take shape only after the surface level thrill settles and the reality of the person begins to appear. It's in the space between texts, in the way she handles conflict, in how she shows up on the days when there's nothing exciting to do. It's in the way she makes him feel when no one's watching. That's when he starts to see whether his desire is just for the moment, or if there's something much deeper pulling at him. This is what makes time such a powerful filter, because over time, the fog of infatuation begins to fade. When the emotional rush dies down, he starts noticing things that weren't obvious at first. How she speaks to people, how she responds to stress, how she treats herself. These small details matter more than grand gestures or passionate nights. They reveal character, and character is what separates someone he desires from someone he can't imagine his life without. If those observations inspire respect, admiration, and comfort, his feelings begin to transform. The desire doesn't go away, it just becomes layered with trust, appreciation, and emotional safety. That's the moment when love starts to build roots. Many women want to know, when will he know if he loves me? But there's no single moment. It's not a switch that flips. It's a slow realization built on consistency and emotional resonance. A man doesn't fall in love when everything is perfect. He falls in love when she's real with him, when she shares her truth, and when he sees that she's the same person whether things are fun or frustrating. That kind of emotional consistency is rare, and men notice it more than they let on. They may not always articulate it, but it makes them feel grounded. It creates a space where they can open up, drop the performance, and just be themselves. And once they feel that safety, the emotional walls start to drop. That's when they begin to give not just attention, but vulnerability, honesty, and long-term effort. But the truth is, not every man will reach this stage. Some will ride the wave of attraction until it fizzles, and then move on, never bothering to look deeper. That's why it's so important for a woman to be patient, not because she's waiting on him, but because she's watching him. She's observing. If his energy is still present after the chase is over, if he still cares when he's no longer trying to impress, if he shows up when there's no spark to chase, just connection to build, that's when his true intentions surface. Not when he's trying to win her, but when he's deciding whether he wants to keep her. Love is quiet work. It doesn't happen at the beginning. It happens when a man chooses to stay in, even when things get complicated. When he finds himself caring more about her peace than his pride. When he listens instead of trying to fix. When he supports without being asked. When he stops thinking about what he's getting and starts thinking about what he's giving. Those are the signs that lust has evolved into something deeper. Not because he said all the right things, but because he did them. That's when a man loves, not in the thrill, but in the quiet moments when he realizes he wouldn't want to face life without her. The truth women must hear is this. For most men, lust is the doorway, but love is the destination. And the path between the two is shaped not by looks or chemistry, but by time, standards, and emotional depth. Men are wired to feel desire quickly, but they only fall in love when they see something worth staying for. Something that challenges them, supports them, and inspires them to grow. Lust may spark the chase, but love is built in the quiet, consistent moments that reveal character. That's why it's never about how fast things start. It's about how they unfold. When a woman holds space for herself, sets boundaries, and lets time reveal who a man truly is, she gives him the chance to move beyond the surface and meet her at a level where real connection lives. And the man who's ready for love, he won't just chase the thrill, he'll rise to meet the standard. Because for him, it's no longer just about having her, it's about earning the right to keep her.